The tale of Samyaza and the Watchers is not just a biblical story. It's a tale of immense corruption, celestial rebellion, and humanity's fall from grace. Samyaza, the leader of the Watchers, angels who once walked in the presence of the Almighty, became the mastermind behind one of the most catastrophic events in history. His actions not only defied God, but also gave birth to the monstrous Nephilim and the demonic forces that haunt our world today. This story, as revealed in the Book of Enoch, is one of the earliest accounts of fallen angels and the forbidden knowledge they imparted to humankind. In this video, we will take a deep dive into how Samyaza's lust and rebellion nearly destroyed humanity and how it led to the creation of demons. Let's uncover the catastrophic effects of Samyaza's choices and the everlasting consequences they left behind. Samyaza was not alone in his rebellion. He led a group of 200 angels, known as the Watchers, who chose to descend to earth and take human women as their wives. According to the Book of Enoch, Samyaza had a deep, lustful desire for these women, but was fearful of embarking on this sin alone. The story tells us that Samyaza, uncertain of whether his fellow Watchers would agree to such an act, said, "I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin." In his moment of weakness, Samyaza persuaded the other Watchers to join him in this act of defiance. They swore an oath together on Mount Hermon, binding themselves to this terrible cause. This was no ordinary agreement. It was a pact that forever altered the course of human history. With their agreement, the Watchers began their descent to Earth, unleashing chaos that would nearly wipe out all of humanity. The birth of the Nephilim, humanity's worst nightmare. As the Watchers and humans began to interbreed, the result was nothing short of monstrous, the Nephilim. These hybrid beings were giants, taller and stronger than any human being. The Book of Enoch describes them as having a height of 300 ells, which is roughly 450 feet, towering over men and causing destruction on an unimaginable scale. These giants were not only physically formidable but also deeply evil, consuming all the resources of mankind. The giants grew insatiable, devouring entire populations and turning on each other in cannibalistic frenzies. The Book of Enoch recounts, "They consumed all the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood." Their reign began in the days of Jared, the father of Enoch, and it was an era marked by widespread corruption and violence. The giants didn't only harm humanity, they corrupted the very earth itself, disrupting the natural order and turning everything into chaos. Biblical accounts and further revelations. The Bible provides a brief but powerful account of these events, noting the presence of the Nephilim on earth. In Genesis 6 verses 1-4, it mentions how the sons of God, the angels, took human wives and bore children with them, creating the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch expands on this, describing the Watchers as angels who descended to earth and brought forth these horrific beings. The Book of Giants, an apocryphal text, sheds further light on Samyaza's actions, specifically naming his hybrid sons, Ohia and Hea, as key figures in this destructive era. These texts provide a deeper understanding of the profound damage caused by Samyaza and the Watchers. In these sacred writings, we see that the Watchers' sin wasn't just about lust. It was about the deliberate corruption of humanity, which eventually led to a great flood meant to purge the earth of this wickedness. But God, in His mercy, didn't leave humanity without hope. He sent Enoch, the righteous prophet, to preach repentance to the giants and the fallen angels. This act of grace reveals the nature of God's forgiveness, even in the face of unimaginable sin. The role of Enoch and the Watchers' fate. Enoch's mission was a critical turning point. Despite the Watchers and the Nephilim's defiance, God's mercy still prevailed. Enoch was tasked with conveying the divine judgment and offering the chance for repentance. Samyaza and his fellow fallen angels were given a brief opportunity to turn away from their sin and save themselves from destruction. But pride was their downfall. The Watchers, rather than repenting, chose to defy God even further. They mocked God's judgment and continued in their wicked ways. As a result, God's wrath would be swift and relentless. The Book of Enoch describes how Samyaza and the Watchers were bound and cast into the abyss, awaiting their eternal punishment. The forbidden knowledge, magic, sorcery, and the occult. One of the most destructive gifts the Watchers bestowed upon humanity was forbidden knowledge, secrets of magic, sorcery, and dark arts. Samyaza, alongside Azazel, taught humanity how to harness the supernatural for evil purposes. Samyaza introduced humans to enchantments and magic, practices that corrupted the soul and distanced humanity from God. These teachings spread like wildfire, and soon, witchcraft and dark magic became widespread. Azazel, a chief watcher, is particularly known for introducing humanity to the creation of weapons, swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He also taught the use of precious metals, the art of beautifying oneself with cosmetics, and the use of stones for magical purposes. But Samyaza's teachings were even darker. He focused on magic rooted in the occult, leading people away from God's light into darkness. The destructive power of knowledge. The teachings of Samyaza and the other fallen angels weren't inherently evil at first. After all, knowledge itself is not a sin. However, the misuse of knowledge led to the downfall of mankind. Rather than using these teachings for good, humanity used them to corrupt and destroy one another. The practice of witchcraft became normalized, with some of the most powerful ancient civilizations, such as Egypt, embracing these forbidden arts. In ancient Egypt, priests were the primary practitioners of magic, using their knowledge to communicate with the gods. But these so-called gods were, in reality, fallen angels who used magic to manipulate and control humanity. The Egyptian term Hekage referred to magic and was believed to be the divine power granted by the gods. But this magic wasn't just used for healing or protection. It was also used for destructive purposes, from casting curses to weakening and defeating enemies. The legacy of Samyaza and his influence on the occult. Samyaza's influence on humanity did not end with the destruction of the Nephilim. His teachings laid the foundation for what we now call the occult world. The practice of dark magic and sorcery continues to be used by individuals and secret societies throughout history, often for gaining power, control, and influence. The occult has been linked to some of the most influential figures throughout history, from ancient rulers to modern-day elites. The rise of mysticism, astrology, and esoteric practices can be traced back to the teachings of Samyaza and the Watchers. In modern times, these teachings continue to infiltrate society, with many people seeking forbidden knowledge in the hope of gaining power or understanding beyond the natural world. Yet, these practices always lead back to one central point. They separate humanity from God, just as the Watchers' teachings did in the past. Ancient Egypt, a reflection of Samyaza's influence. The ancient Egyptians, known for their elaborate rituals and practices surrounding death and the afterlife, were deeply influenced by the knowledge imparted by the Watchers. The belief in magic as a force that could control fate and protect one's soul was central to Egyptian culture. The power of magic in Egypt was believed to transcend death, with spells and amulets safeguarding the body's journey into the afterlife. However, this magic had a dark side. It was not only used for protection, but also for cursing enemies and exerting control over others. The corruption of knowledge, the occult's grip on power. Samyaza's teachings on magic went beyond the ancient world. They set the stage for the occult's deep grip on human history. Powerful empires throughout history have used mystical practices and esoteric knowledge to maintain control. From the Egyptian pharaohs to the secretive societies of today, the occult has always been intertwined with power. The teachings of Samyaza, whether recognized or not, have shaped many of the world's most powerful institutions, with elites continuing to wield these ancient secrets for personal gain. The demons, creation and destruction. The final consequence of Samyaza's rebellion was the creation of demons. When the Nephilim were destroyed in the flood, their souls, forever corrupted by their demonic parentage, did not find rest. Instead, these evil souls became the first demons. They are said to roam the earth, influencing humanity towards sin and destruction. The fall of Samyaza, God's wrath. In the end, Samyaza and his fellow watchers were bound and cast into hell, awaiting their final judgment. The Great Flood was not just a means of cleansing the earth, but a final act of divine justice. It eradicated the corruption that Samyaza and his followers had spread, ensuring that the world would have a fresh start. Only Noah and his family, whose bloodline remained untainted by the Watchers, survived the flood. Conclusion: a final lesson. The story of Samyaza, the Watchers, and their monstrous creations is a tale of rebellion, corruption, and divine justice. It serves as a warning to humanity about the dangers of forbidden knowledge and the consequences of turning away from God. While Samyaza and his followers faced punishment for their actions, we can still see their influence in the world today. The occult, the practice of dark magic, and the temptation to seek power through forbidden means continue to lead people away from the light of God. Let us remember that the ultimate power is with God alone. As we reflect on the story of Samyaza, we should be reminded of the importance of faith, repentance, and the pursuit of righteousness. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has helped you understand the incredible story of Samyaza and the Watchers, and how their rebellion against God still echoes through our world today. If you want to learn more about similar topics, check out my Book of Enoch playlist, and remember, do not worship or praise angels. Our worship is reserved for the Most High alone.